Hello and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page. This is Dante Renee, and tonight's movie is the 1972 film from Mr. Paul Bartel by the name of Private Parts. This is not the Howard Stern film, this is the 1972 Paul Bartel film that takes place at the King Edward's Hotel in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Actually, in not a very nice area in Los Angeles, California. Private Parts is Paul Bartel's first feature-length film, although if you get the Eating Raoul Criterion edition, you will find one of his short films. He did do some short films, but this was his first feature-length film, and surprisingly enough, this is put out by Warner Brothers. I believe this DVD is now out of print, but you can still buy it for a very reasonable price on Amazon or eBay. Cheryl is a lovely girl, but to George, she's a living doll. This is Private Parts, folks. This film is something very, very special. Where do you know Paul Bartel from? You know Paul Bartel from his kind of acting stints with Mary Woronov in like Chopping Mall, and he was in Rock and Roll High School, bald, rotund fellow, and he directed films like Death Race 2000 for Roger Corman, and of course, the movie we're talking about today, Private Parts. Private Parts actually was filmed in Los Angeles at a real place called the King Edward's Hotel, and that King Edward's Hotel is still there today. Visited it about 5 years ago and was terrified for my life. It looks pretty much exactly the same, and the vibe and the feel of this film really seems to be intact and the real deal. They didn't fabricate any of that. This is a film, a very sleazy film that deals with the underbelly. You know, you have like the, porn and adult bookstores and a young teen girl being exposed to a variety of characters inside of the King Edward's Hotel. A pedophile, homosexual priest, a weird photographer, an old woman who talks about masturbation. You have some very, very interesting things, and a man who has very sexual, bizarre photography in his hotel room. And of course, the infamous Aunt Martha. Aunt Martha, who runs the King Edward's Hotel, who you might have known her from the beginning of Halloween 2, John Carpenter's Halloween 2, when she's making the sandwich for her husband, and there's some blood there that Michael leaves when her husband's watching Night of the Living Dead and falls asleep in the living room. This is a very peculiar, a very unique vibe of a film. Just imagine different rooms inside of a very shady, sleazy, low rent kind of hotel with classic style, a hotel that seems to have been there for many, many years, but has suffered the consequences of a sleazy 70s, coming in and invading, and drugs and all of that kind of coming in there. This is a film that has a score by Hugo Friedhofer, which you can actually find easily on Amazon or eBay on vinyl or CD. It comes on a disc that's like a double score with another movie. And Private Parts, it's a 15-minute section on the CD soundtrack. And this is just an awesome orchestrated score, dramatic, dark, yet sleazy at the same time. It even has a real sleazy section to it, at an opportune point in the film. If you like, kind of being in those parts of the city, whether it be New York, but definitely LA, because this is where it is in LA here. If you like being in those parts of the city, if you like being around those characters, around that shifty hotel, and then you throw in some horror into the mix, and even a dead rat, and you throw in very peculiar characters, and you throw in a story where the central core deals with sex, sexual perversions, sexual idiosyncrasies, and sexual freedom, and also
sexual personality and somebody being different and unique and feeling that way and feeling out of place in society, whether because you're so young or because you just don't fit in sexually with the rest of society and thus don't fit in. This film was really ahead of its time in terms of dealing with some issues, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but dealing with some issues that were done in pretty exploitative ways in the 70s and 60s sometimes. But this was dealt with in a way. I mean, this film, Paul Bartel, or I spoke to Anne Ryman, the lead actress in the film, who did some television as well and some TV movies, and she even signed the front of my DVD here as I mailed it to her. Right there, Anne Ryman. And I spoke to her, and I even spoke to George, the guy in the back here, one of the photographers in the hotel. And they kind of had like a black comedy type of vibe to the film. And I got to be honest with you, I never got that from the film. Just like a lot of people say Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a black comedy vibe to the film. I never got that from the film. But I see it, upon repeated viewings. And I have seen this film probably 20 plus times. It is one of my favorite films of all time, this particular film here. And the interesting thing is that there is some darkness in here, and there is a ton of weirdness, and there is a ton of bizarreness, and there's a ton of sleaze. And there are some situations in this film that will sucker punch you. This is a film that I would say is so well done that even if you don't like exploitation films, even if you don't like, sleazy films, even if you don't like horror films, you will probably be glued to this movie for the entire duration of the film, and you will want to know what happens next. It's a very peculiar film. It's a very kind of peeping through holes in a hotel, dirty, rats. Kind of what stories lie in the room next door? What character lies in the room down the hall? Who lives in that room? Let's go to the front desk of the hotel. And I wonder if I, go upstairs, what will I find? Or what's in the basement? This is a film where you are literally exploring hotels. I was raised in hotels a lot of the time because my parents were traveling a lot, and I'm obsessed with hotels. I love hotels. I especially love shifty hotels and shady hotels and motels. And this is a real place, folks. The outside of this place is really the way it looks today. And when we went 5 years ago, there were actually homeless people inside of the lobby, and there were drug deals going on, and there were people doing drugs outside of the hotel. Really some wild stuff. And it smelled like urine. But Private Parts, the acting is superb on all fronts. And the man who plays the priest in this film, if you listen to his voice very carefully, you will note that he is the man who did the Winnie the Pooh voice. Yeah, that's a fact. So listen to his voice, and you'll get that. Private Parts is one of those films I believe some more people are finding out about. But about 5 years ago, most people didn't know about it, and most people still don't know about it. Okay, this is a film that melds horror, it melds exploitation, it melds black humor, it melds the psychosexual. Okay? The psychosexual. It melds the weird and the bizarre. Paul Bartel's filming style in this movie is, quite subtle, quite classic. If you've seen his films, Eating Raoul, or Eating Raoul kind of has a very similar filming style. He was the kind of guy that was just very subtle with what he was doing. And in this particular film, though, I believe it was almost his most adventurous between this and Eating Raoul in terms of the way he filmed the movie. There were some zooms in, and just it's interesting. It's almost like a classy shot film in a way, to a film that's low budget, kind of 42nd Street vibe to it, but it's classier than that. And this is the kind of film that really deals in the plot of an innocent girl coming of age who wants to explore her sexuality, who wants to is very, very curious, the kind of girl that a parent today would be terrified of because she runs away. She's curious. She wants to explore her own body. She's fascinated by sex. She's fascinated by older men and all of that, and any man who takes interest in her. And the film is shot in an innocent way with very disturbing and weird and dark subject matter. That's the thing that makes this film so unique in many ways, is that even the score is classic in nature. And it's done so innocently, yet it sucker punches you with the psychosexual. Now, there is nudity in this film. There's full nudity in this film, and it's done in a very creepy kind of way, as the young people say today, creepy guys. It's done in a creepy kind of way in the storyline. I would say this is an awesome film to watch with a blow up doll. You can see the blow up doll on the right there, and you see her right there. I'd say, buy a blow-up doll if you haven't bought one for a while. Get one of the real ones from an adult bookstore and blow it up and sit down next to it naked and watch Private Parts, folks. This is Private Parts. It's Paul Bartel's first film, and I gotta tell you, it satisfies on all fronts, and it just gives me great vibes, great feelings. This is just an extremely underrated gem, an underrated diamond in the rough. Go pick up your copy now. You can find it on VHS as well, folks, okay? But the DVD is out of print, I believe, but it's rather easy to find. There's only a theatrical trailer on this DVD, unfortunately. I would love somebody to pick this up, one of the modern companies today, and really do some damage, in terms of getting a nice release out for this film, because it's well deserved. This is Paul Bartel's Private Parts, 1972. You can, I even have all the original lobby cards for this film and the poster. It's just a film that really makes me happy, and if you like what you've heard, then you're gonna love Private Parts. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page. You can check out my own films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thanks again, folks, and good night.